there, my name is Samantha Jayne and welcome to the Angel and Exorcist channel.
I'm Paul Devlin. I am the exorcist with over 25 years experience of spirit rescue and working in the paranormal.
So Paul, let's chat about hauntings.
Hauntings, that's a big subject.
It is big because in the UK it's massive. It's like so many people have experienced at some point.
I think the official figure is something like over 50% of the people of the UK have had a paranormal experience.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
I might be biased because of the work I do, have a false
Maybe.
impression, but it doesn't surprise me.
But there again, I don't think many people would acknowledge it unless they are encouraged to acknowledge it, because it might be the wind, it might be this, it might be that.
Yeah.
It's when it starts on a regular basis.
Yeah, and part of the work is sometimes is the word debunk, to debunk these things as well. I also think there's a lot of people probably in haunted situations, we'll call it that, and clueless.
Yeah.
To, you know, I mean, we're sat here now and that is the radiator clicking. That's not your granny coming through. If you're picking it up, you can hear that over there. But I think people can be oblivious to it as well. But for me, hauntings occur through a number of things. I think one can be spirit that hasn't passed over.
Yeah. And
then the other thing that I encounter is what I call a karmic replay. So they're actually oblivious to you in your home or whatever, but you've got spirit world coming in and you see this in the castles, the forts, the big historical places, where you've got spirit coming in and doing like a replay of a scenario, and they're just playing it out and playing it out and playing it out. And then the third one I've experienced is where spirit are coming in and they're actually looking for someone.
Right.
And I've experienced that where they have been looking for their wife, but not only did they pass 40 years ago, their wife passed 20 years ago.
Yeah, and you often find that people, if you go to places where like you and I have been called out on investigations or spirit rescues, and spirits are aware of other spirits, but they can't. Yeah. They're a different time zone.
Yeah.
You know, so this might have been in the 14th century when the pub was down here, but it's had an extension.
Yeah.
In the 18th century, it's up here.
Yeah.
So what might appear to be walking halfway through the floorboards is actually in their time. They're walking
exactly
where it is.
And that's why I always say to people, often it's not about the building, it's about the land and what has been absorbed energetically into the land. Because the other thing with hauntings as well is I would love people to recognise it's not all scary Mary stuff, as I call it.
No.
Sometimes there's almost a sadness to it. Like I say, the spirit looking for his wife for 40 years, you know. And I've seen that in places where the woman comes down searching for a baby that died at birth.
So in your work,
yeah,
how does, if somebody comes to you and says, I have a haunting, how would you deal with that?
I go to the property.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do it over distance. I've certainly learnt that in recent months. But I go to the property. I walk around the property on my own, or if I take someone with me, then the two of us walk around together. Make sure the property is clear of everyone but the person who put the call in.
Yeah.
As well. And I open up and I read the house, is the only way I can describe it, to ascertain what is really going on. You know, sometimes I'll get called to a property and it's a little old lady and I say to the people, you don't want me to move this lady on? She's protective. I joke and say she's cleaning your house. It's just energetically she's cleaning your house now. Because she used to live here and this is her home and this is where she chooses to be. And I always joke and say, I'll take her home and she can clean mine if you like. But you don't really want me to move this lady on. And then other times, of course, it's more into this, what I call scary Mary moments.
Yeah.
But I basically walk around the property, get a feel for it, relate and deal with it, and then relay to the person what has been going on.
Do you find that it's the places you go are more active than other places that may cause these hauntings?
Yeah, I think as well, it's down to the history of buildings, the locations. You've got to think years and years and years of energy and emotion. And, you know, whereas if we go to a house on land that has been a field for hundreds of years, versus, I mean, we're filming this in Swindon here today, but versus a house in the middle of a place here called Old Town, which has years and years of history, completely different energetic setups. I'd be amazed if I'm called to the house that's built on what was a field, and that's not what I call a new haunting.
No.
Whereas, say, the property in Old Town would be old stuff.
Yeah.
And not just one thing, it would be a whole menagerie of things.
Yeah.
Because
I think with some stuff I've been involved with in more recent years, with more and more building projects and you know, people crying for more and more houses.
Yeah.
It's the new builds that I'm called to.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because one of the things I have noticed through my work is that if spirit have an attachment to a place, and that doesn't have to be, again, that can be the land.
Yeah.
I will tell a funny story about a place, a physical property in a minute. But if they have an attachment, they don't like change, because you're disrupting the energy that they are used to forming in, they are attached to.
Yeah.
So you're impacting their energy field when you start putting up bricks and mortar. And you know, you know what it's like, have the energy of, well, I was here first.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do still have that energy. They do still have this personality. People have got to stop thinking that spirit turn, you know, when they pass, they become all angelic like. If your granny was an evil beep beep beep, she's still going to be an evil beep beep beep.
Yeah.
Spirit world, she doesn't become all holier than thou. She might understand a little bit more and the power of the words she's used, but you know, people remain that character. So if that is the kind of character who's used to being in that space, you then invade their space, because it's all parallels, then of course you're going to have a reaction. You wouldn't put up with someone suddenly deciding they want to put a shed in the bottom of your garden.
No.
And it's not dissimilar to that, you know?
I think with going to different properties, you never know. You'll get the description over the phone roughly what you're going to get into.
But that's their interpretation.
Exactly.
Well.
And when you go into a property, or you go into an office block or wherever it is, it's you are on their turf, and it is scary. And this is our work. This is what we do, you know, for a living. Yeah. But to these people, they are living it. It's a frightening thing to go through. You wake up in the night, or it doesn't have to be in the night, it can be in the day, and things start happening that you have no explanation for, and then all of a sudden you're freaking out, because your rational mind is going, it can't be that, it can't be that, it can't be that. So it's got to be that. It's always like it's the last rock they look under, and go, blimey, it's a ghost, it's a spirit. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So I always remind myself before I go in that these people are scared. Yeah. You know, and they will babble at you, and you have to sit there and you'll listen to it.
Piece it.
And just pick out a story, because we're not, you know, we're not gods. You know, I do my work because I enjoy my work and I want to help people the same as you do. Yeah. The whole reason why we do this channel is to educate and help people. And when you are called into these properties, you are the last line. Yeah. You know, that they've been through everything else, and that's one thing that I really enjoy about it. is that you give people, again, what I said before, you're helping giving people and spirit freedom. As people forget, you know, it's not just the people you're giving freedom to.
Yeah.
Spirit can then go on their own journey, and then they can advance and then help others.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have one memory, talking about physical properties.
Yeah.
I have one memory of a property just outside Newbury. And this is very classic for anyone who's doing any building work, where they were knocking through a row of 3 cottages to create one big house. And so we're talking very old properties as well. And they went through so many builders on that, to the point that they would come in and they would have wallpapered walls the night before.
Yeah.
They would come in the next day and the wallpaper was neatly folded and in a band around the room. And in the end, the owner actually left because he went away and he came back and there was muddy footprints all across the ceiling.
Wow.
Absolutely impossible to do. So people were screaming, people were, you know, running off. And we're talking big burly builders here.
Yeah.
But every time they did any work, they'd come in the next day and it had been undone. Because the original residents did not approve of the work. I was always thinking that film, The Others. Have you ever seen the film, The Others?
I haven't seen that film, no.
That's a fabulous film where it shows you how you have the different layers of spirit living in the same place.
Yeah.
In an old property that's been there 500 years. So you've got a new human family move in, and then you've got the interactions between
wow.
all the other spirit world. So the in that one, like the servants in the house, who are there in spirit, they're not real. But you don't realise it. I've probably just ruined it for anyone who's not seen it now, but you don't realise it till the end of the film.
I received a call from somebody who I worked on a radio show with, and he had this fascination about collecting dolls.
Yeah.
And I said to him before, just be careful, because they were specifically tailored. They were put online as haunted doll. You know, this doll was possessed. This.
Okay.
And I remember one night he brought them into the studio, and I said, no, just get them out, and leave them in reception.
Was it looking at you?
And he was like, oh, it's lovely, isn't it lovely? I went, it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. It's horrible. What were you thinking? So he started this collection, and he got to about 6 or 7, I think it was. And I just, in my head, I'm like, just wait for the call. Because it's going to happen. It's going to come.
The clock was ticking. Yeah.
And sure enough, on a Sunday night, from you, Paul, can you like, are you busy? And I went, well, not really. Just getting the kids ready for bed. I need you. This has happened. I was like, right, okay, on my way. So I get there, and in his bedroom, he had in his bedroom. What? These 7 dolls were positioned all around the bed, right on shelves. And I just looked at him in disbelief. I was like, you know, I've told you. And he said to me, I was getting ready for bed, and the covers of the duvet were pulled off.
Yeah.
And then when he looked up, the doll 1 had swapped with doll 2, and then he looked round and doll 3 had swapped with doll 4. And I freaked out.
I should think so.
And I'm like, well,
yeah.
So we need to find out. And it turned out to be one specific entity that had taken a little bit from each little doll, formed as a one collective, and thought, right, I'm going to have some fun here, ladies and gentlemen. So I sorted the problem out, and I said to him, what you need to do is you need to get each and every one of those dolls, put them in a bag, and get rid of them. Don't give them to anybody else. Yeah. Just
put them
in the bin, whatever.
Yeah. So what did he do?
I took him off him because I didn't trust him, and I did it myself. And after that he went, no, I promise Paul, no more dolls. I'm not going to buy any more dolls.
Yeah.
And he hasn't.
I had a client recently with a haunted, that I can think of recently,
Yeah.
is a haunted chair.
Right. Haunted chair. Do tell. That's interesting.
So it was in one person's house, and they knew it. They're a bit naughty because they knew it, and for their own amusement they would get people to sit in the chair to see what happened. And then I had a client come to me who had sat in this chair. In fact, they didn't come to me, they were on the phone in a frenzy, sat in that chair, and had then, because she has mediumistic ability herself and in training,
Oh dear.
so I wasn't fully aware of everything, but aware enough to know what was going on. Whatever was sitting in the chair, whoever was sitting in the chair, she sat in the chair, and of course, woof, that was it then. So I have seen that happen. The chair has since been destroyed, let's call it that. But it, it's, if you think, if your granny has sat in a chair for the last 15 years of her life, her essence is in that chair. And, if she wasn't happy, if she was, not in a good place, that's the kind of energy that will have been absorbed into that chair.
And especially wood. Wood is a very, will absorb anything.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah. Anything is possible.
So you destroyed the chair?
Yes.
What was?
Yes. Well, I would have done that, but I would have done that, but they actually were too frightened to wait to take it to the tip, and burnt it in the garden, which I would never do. Personally, I don't believe in firing things up.
No.
But we shall see.
So Sam, have you experienced anything sort of within the local area that really sort of grabbed your attention and you remember more than any of the other things you've done?
I remember being called to a unit up on the airbase, which is up by Wroughton, which is close to us.
Yeah.
And it obviously it's a different business now, but back in the day, it had been, when we researched the history, it had actually been the air hangar,
right,
where they brought back all the bits and pieces from any plane crashes.
Right.
And they would dismantle them and salvage whatever. And I got called in there because the businesses in there involved a mechanic, and there was a mechanic's room.
Yeah.
And they would have fun and games in there because there was a mechanic in the spirit world who had taken over the mechanic's room.
Right.
And the tools, and was scaring big grown-up men out of that room for touching his tools.
Right. Oh dear.
Yeah. So that's why they called me in. And I got them to agree for me also to host a paranormal event in there, because it was just, the amount was amazing. And it's what we call a virgin building.
Yeah.
At that point it had not been done before. It's where, so in there I experienced, in the space of one night, I experienced hardness and having to deal with a male spirit who would not listen to me because I'm a woman.
Right.
And you get that a lot in this work. And dealing with all of that. And obviously we're then shifting that. But I also had my most beautiful moment there. I mean, you know how I like to encourage. I'm not one of these screaming, shouting, swearing at spirit world to get them to form, to interact with it. I'm not into any of that.
No.
I think there's too much of that. I respect spirit world. They're people to me.
Yeah.
You know, if I wouldn't do that to my neighbour, I'm not going to do it to someone in spirit world. So I love to use music from the era if I know there is an era.
Yeah.
So we did an event up there, and obviously, because of what I told you about it being the airfield and all the rest of it, there is literally hundreds of spirit in that building. That is all military. So we went in and we played on loudspeaker, "We'll Meet Again."
Right.
And honest to God, we were all stood there in a semicircle, all the people that were with me, and people in it were singing it. We were swaying, you know how you do.
Yeah, yeah.
We got the music blasting into the dark.
Get that energy up.
And I literally watched all the soldiers and the pilots come forward, and they come in behind us, and the whole place was just filled with these men, military men, RAF men, singing. We had a whole track playing, "We'll Meet Again."
Wow, fantastic.
And the emotion was unbelievable.
Wow.
That was beautiful. That will always sit with me.
Well, I can feel that
always.
because I've got a tear in my eyes, yeah.
Yeah, always. What about you then? You had a moment?
I moved to Manchester,
Right.
and I met this guy at work, and I was living above this Indian restaurant. It was a horrible place, and he said, "Look, let's put our money together and move to this place." So we moved to a 3-bedroom house, and the agent was delighted because, unbeknown to me, this thing had been empty for a long time.
So you're coming today?
Yeah.
Or should
So it started off just we'd watch telly in the evening, me and my mate, 2 bachelors, and the first thing that started to happen was the sound on the TV, like the digital bar, would go up.
Oh, right, okay.
Really, really loud. And then, are you sitting on remote control? No, I'll change the batteries. Then it kept going to, swear to Rod, kept going over to, we were watching Top Gear. No, I want to watch Coronation Street.
So it was a little old lady,
Yeah.
was it?
And this lady was so powerful, and right at the beginning of my journey, I had no idea how to deal with anything like this. And she played us good and proper.
Yeah.
One of the scariest moment was he announced at the height of all this activity that he was going to go away. His mum and dad had paid for him to go on holiday for a week in Malaga, leaving me alone in this house.
Home alone. Yeah.
And I could feel this lady go, I'm gonna get you so bad. And I sat downstairs, you know, please don't kill me. And the first night, I left it as late as I could. I stayed at the pub as late as I dare. And even though I had work, you know, next morning, I was only drinking Cokes and stuff.
Yeah.
And they had to ask me, "Paul, you need to go now." So I go through the front door.
Yeah.
And it's freezing cold. It's
Yeah.
black as black. And out of the blue, this book just goes whoosh, and just straight between the eyes.
Right.
And I lost it. I completely. What are you doing? This is my house now. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And she tormented me all night long, banging on the door. And when he came home, I said, I
I'm
can't
done.
stay here anymore.
Under.
And we did call somebody in
Oh, did you?
at the point where one morning he was, he shouted at me. My friend had come back that time. And he went, "What you know, get out of the bathroom, I've got to go to work." So I appeared at the bottom of the stairs. I went, "I'm here." And he went, "Well, the shower's going and the door's locked." I said, "Well, if I'm down here, who's in the shower?"
That's a new one. I've never heard a spirit taking a shower.
So
okay.
we tried to
Yeah.
force the door, and it was literally a comedy moment. Tried to force the door, and the lock you heard the lock go, and we both just fell on the floor. And all I remember is looking up and just seeing the shower stop dripping. Drip, drip, drip. And at that point, I was like, we really do
I'm
need
out
to.
of here. Yeah.
We need to get some help.
What would you say are, let's use the word symptoms of a place having haunting activity?
There are many symptoms. I mean, but I think the one that people talk about is the coldness.
Yeah.
Is the ice cold. I mean, you can go in a room that doesn't have heating in, but when you go in a room that is ice cold,
Yeah.
and you can see the coldness of your breath.
Yeah.
That is a big symptom. Knock-ins, people try and communicate.
Things that go bump in the night,
Yeah.
as we say. Yeah.
Turning radios on, tellies up and down.
Yeah.
You know, anything electrical they love to play with.
Yeah.
Because they know it'll get your attention.
Yeah. I had a client once whose radio was constantly going up. It was her husband had passed. He was trying to get through. It's not quite a haunting, but he was constantly moving the fridge magnets. It's little things that annoy. Apparently, I wouldn't know. When you've had a husband of 40 years, it's the little things he does that drive you bonkers. And this was one of her things. And he continued to do it from the grave. Just let her know he was knocking about and play with the radio and change the station on the radio.
Right.
I'm aware of that. I also think, for me, if I'm going into somewhere and I know that what is in it is not nice, is from the darker end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I can smell death. You can smell it, and it is like a decaying. Well, what I imagine to be. I'm a vegetarian for a start, so I don't even know. But it's what I imagine the smell of rotting meat, flesh smells. It has this unearthly smell to it. Yeah, and it's and that darkness, that unearthly darkness as well. And also, I'd describe it as a stillness. I don't know how else to word that, because it's something that's kind of felt and heard all at the same time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, spirit use smell all the time, don't they? I mean, cigarette smoke is the classic.
Yeah, perfume is the other.
Yeah. Good old Lily of the Valley, still knocking around in spirit world.
Beer smell.
And that soap. Is it cold tar or something? I can't remember what they call it. Like, there's an old soap that people used to use back in the day, like cold tar soap or something like that.
Right.
I can picture it like a big sort of yellow block of soap. That's a specific smell. No, it's good. I love this subject. We could talk about it for hours. So I hope that you have enjoyed this show. My name is Samantha Jayne.
And I am Paul Devlin.
And this is the Angel and the Exorcist show. If you have enjoyed it, then as I say, please hit like. Remember to subscribe to the channel and hit that all important bell so you know when the next show is available.